Breaking news. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting says it will shut down after Congress cut money. Currently, the CPB helps support more than 1,500 locally owned NPR and PBS member stations. So, to set the stage, this comes as a result of the Trump administration's longtime disapproval for public media outlets, particularly NPR and PBS, because he believes they exhibit liberal media bias. Now, obviously, I don't care what bias you exhibit as long as they're doing their best to report the facts and deliver the truth without twisting it in a way that supports their own narrative. Like, even though I hate outlets like Fox News and Newsmax because I think they're full of crap, which really can make the same argument for them exhibiting their own bias, I would still want them to have their own platform to exercise their freedom of speech. So before I get into this, I just wanted to address the fact that there's been a lot of events that have happened over the course of this weekend, and there's a lot of material to cover, but due to a number of events, including the funeral for a member of my family, I was largely unavailable, and it's been hard to keep up with the news and report on every story. However, given that this coming week I'm more readily available, I'm hoping we'll be able to get back on track. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I wanted to bring this story to the forefront of your attention because it's something that affects me very personally. Throughout the entirety of my childhood, we grew up with very basic cable, channels 1 through 11, so really the only children's programming that was available to us was PBS Kids. And the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was always something I remembered on nearly every show. And it was through those countless educational shows that helped me shape me into the very person that I am today. Things like Martha Speaks taught me how to use words in a proper manner and how to construct a sentence. Things like Sid the Science Kid taught me the importance of science and using logical data to back my claims. And of course, Sesame Street, which was somewhat of a mishmash of educational material, taught me how to navigate tough social situations while fostering healthy, effective communication skills. So let's see what it says here. It says the Corporation for Public Broadcasting announced Friday that it will begin shutting down, weeks after Congress canceled previously approved funding for the nation's steward of public media access. The CPB said in a statement that it'll begin an orderly wind down of its operations after nearly 60 years with the support of the federal government. It said that most staff positions will conclude with the close of fiscal year on September 30th. A small team of employees will remain through January 2026. It added it did not specify how many people in total were being laid off. Despite the extraordinary efforts of millions of Americans who called, wrote, and petitioned Congress to preserve federal funding for CPB, we now face the difficult reality of closing our operations. The corporation's president and CEO, Patricia Harrison, said in a statement, CPB remains committed to fulfilling its fiduciary responsibilities and supporting our partners through this transition with transparency and care. Now, this just makes me sad. The fact that you would take away funding that's been approved for almost 60 years, that would go to numerous different media stations, but maybe even more importantly, to children's programming, of which PBS previously received around 15% of its annual revenue from, just out of spite to seek revenge on an organization that would only come at the expense of the children, is downright diabolical. Additionally, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting administered the Ready to Learn program, which I can remember being advertised from my earliest days of watching PBS Kids, and I believe was launched in the mid-1990s. Somebody might have to fact check me on that. But it was terminated back in May by the Department of Education because of a greater push by the Trump administration to reduce or eliminate federal support for public media because the funds were being used to promote radical left-wing agendas and woke ideologies, which we all know is ridiculous. It says the announcement comes less than a month after Congress passed a package of spending cuts requested by President Donald Trump that included stripping $1.1 billion in funding for the CPB. The Trump administration has maintained that the CPB should be stripped of funding despite objections from some Republican lawmakers whose districts include rural areas that rely on the local outlets. The administration has repeatedly accused NPR and PBS of liberal bias, which the organizations have repeatedly denied. Now, I kind of want to go back to that real quick, and I just wanted to say, are we all guilty of having some degree of bias? Yes, absolutely. But to the extent that you would defund an entire organization specifically appointed by Congress back in like 1967, yeah, that's existed from the 60s because it doesn't align with your particular ideology, I think that's just crazy. It says public media has been one of the most trusted institutions in American life, providing educational opportunity, emergency alerts, civil discourse, and cultural connection to every corner of the country, Harrison said. Currently, the CPB helps support more than 1,500 locally owned public radio and television stations. Some of the most revered national PBS and NPR programs are expected to remain on the air thanks to other sources of funding. Now, thank God some of these stations will still exist due to other sources of funding, but just to remind you, this is coming from the very same party who ran off of the platform of being against cancel culture, who were against the silencing of free speech, and who were against media suppression. Trump will sacrifice every organization he wants in order to extend his dictatorial authority and stop the press from delivering valuable, informative information that educates the populace, and instead fill it with brainwashed material that only reflects him in a positive light. If you like this video, please subscribe to this channel, like, share, hit that notification bell. We need more independent media outlets that accurately focus and reflect the concerns of the American people. I'll continue to push back against the Trump administration, but with your support, I can only grow this force. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, take it easy. Bye.